In this video, we're going to talk about a common misunderstanding when it comes to programming with generics. So let's add a new class here. We call it instructor. We want the instructor class to inherit from the user class. So here we type extends user. Now we have a compilation error. It says there is no default constructor available in user. So earlier, we added this constructor to pass the number of points. And for this reason, our instructor class doesn't know what value or what argument to pass to the constructor of the user class. To solve this problem, we add a custom constructor here. So public instructor, we give it the points. Now here we should pass this value to the constructor of the base class. And we do that using the super keyword. So super and pass the points. The problem is gone. So here's our instructor class. Now back in the main class, here we can declare a variable of type user. We call it user. Now we can set this to a new user or a new instructor because an instructor is a type of a user. So let's pass 10 here. This is basic object-oriented programming. If this concept is foreign to you, you really need to go back and watch the second part of this series. So if we have a variable of type user, we can set it to an instance of the user class or any of its derivatives, like the instructor class. Now, why does this matter? Well, let's go back to our utils class and add a new method for printing a user. So public static void print user. We give it a parameter of type user. And here we do a print line of user. Since we get a user here, we can pass an instance of the user class or any of its derivatives. So back in the main class, we can call utils.print user. Here we can pass a user object or an instructor object. Perfectly fine. Now, what if we expected a list of users here? So I'm going to go back to the utils class and add another method for printing a list of users. So public static void print users. The type of the parameter should be generic list of user, and we call it users. Now don't worry about the implementation. So this method takes a generic list of users. Now back to the main class, we can create a generic list of users, new generic list of user, and pass it to this method. So utils.print users. And that's perfectly fine. But if we change this to instructor, we get a compilation error. Because a generic list of instructor is not a subtype of generic list of user. Why is that? Well, earlier we talked about how these generic classes work under the hood. We looked at the bytecode representation of this generic list class. As I showed you earlier, this generic list internally maintains a list of objects no matter what we pass here. Whether we pass the user class or the instructor class, we only have a single generic list in our project. And this class is not a subtype of itself. That is the reason why a generic list of instructor is not a subtype of generic list of user, because we're dealing with a single class, okay? So how can we solve this problem here? Let's say we have a list of instructors somewhere. So let's call this instructors. Now, you really want to pass this list to our print users method. Well, one way is to convert this list to a list of users. So we declare a list of users. Then we have to iterate over the list of instructors and add each instructor object to our list of users. Once we do that, we'll be able to pass the list of users here. But this is tedious, right? In the next video, I'm going to show you how to solve this problem using wildcards.